What's up, people? This is William Jones making videos about leaving religion. The purpose of the videos is to get you to think. Turn your brains on and think. And use logic and use reason and realize that religion is fake. Alright, people, for this video, this is part 2 of my daughters giving their testimony. And I have next to me the other twin, and she goes by, ain't her name, but she goes by July. So she's going to give her testimony of how she lived and left religion. All right? So without any further ado, I give you my daughter, July.
Thanks, Dad. Okay, and I'm going to tell my story of, like what my dad just presented. So, the earliest memory that I have is actually praying. I remember when we were living in Virginia. We're from Virginia. And I was leading the prayer. Actually, I was just doing the prayer. And I remember looking down, holding everybody's hands, saying a prayer. I was a good prayer warrior. And I just remember crying. I remember crying. I'm not sure why I cried, but I did cry. But that is the earliest memory that I have. Some other things that I remember while I was in religion is actually hating church. So going to church, we used to go to church all the time. We definitely didn't miss a beat, but I did not enjoy church at all. I didn't enjoy the big church. I didn't enjoy children's church. I definitely did. I'd actually rather go to the big church versus children's church. And when I say big church, I mean the church with the grown folks. But I did actually enjoy listening to my dad preach. That was probably like the only preaching that I actually liked. What else I want to talk about? Something else that is like a prominent memory to me is learning to speak in tongues. From what I grasped about speaking in tongues, it's the way that you speak to God or Jesus or the Holy Ghost. If you don't know what to say, so it's like a language that you can connect and they can like understand you, like basically reading your heart if you don't have the words. A heavenly language. And I remember learning it and feeling foolish. But when I was by myself, I did feel confident and I felt secure while speaking in tongues. But I do remember going to children's church, and I was probably about 10 or 11. And they were like, anybody who needs to learn how to speak in tongues, come up here, we're going to teach you. So I already knew how to speak in tongues, but I remember going up there to attempt to showboat. And so I go up there and I start, like, it was maybe 15 of us in a circle. And so they were like, you just say whatever comes to mind, like just say anything. It can be gibberish, like just say whatever. But I just remember being so nervous and feeling super foolish once again. And I did not showboat that day. I actually was just really nervous and in my shell. But I do remember that memory. And I actually did carry speaking in tongues the remainder of my time left in religion. One thing that my family actually is not aware of, I took religion very seriously because that's all I knew. And I was also afraid to go to hell. So with that being said, I used to wake up, this was probably when I was in my preteens. I used to wake up super early and I used to go into this closet. It was actually the laundry room. And I would sit there and I would speak in tongues. And I would just speak in tongues for maybe 30 minutes. Every morning I'd be exhausted and then I would go back to go to bed. I thought that was just me getting some real cool points, getting closer to God. Because again, I really did not want to go to hell. Um, another thing with that was, so when I was in religion, it was all I knew. It was all I knew. But I will say, like, it was comforting in a sense. So with that being said, I remember it just made me feel like I was safe, or made me feel like I was okay. I do want to state that the reason why I did stay in religion, especially as I got older, was honestly due to fear. I was very fearful of going to hell, hearing the stories about burning and damnation and the devil, meeting the devil, demons. Oh, demons scared me the most. But I do remember trying to convert some of my friends, and if we were successful, I just kind of felt like we were like a part of this club of being safe. Because I do remember the stories of, and I guess it's in Revelations, like at the end of time, like there's going to be this war, which I was so frightened of, by the way. This is from what I can remember. That there is going to be some war and so much blood, and blood is going to be up to our knees or so. To the neck of a horse, like, and I was just so frightened, and I was just like, well, I'm safe, and all the, like, and me and my friends that we successfully converted, we can, we're safe from this. And then if some of my friends didn't convert, the thing that I would say would be like, do you want to go to hell? Do you want to go to hell? Like, that was the way. I know, I understand that's wrong in the morals of just, but at the time, that was one of the things that I would say to attempt to convert my friends and sometimes family. I liked religion when I was in it, or it was all I knew, but I will say this. I hated the fact that we could not go trick-or-treating. That right there was so painful. And I don't care what anyone says, trunk or treat is not the same as trick-or-treating. I just want to say that. And we went to trunk or treat a couple of times, not that many, but I do remember, I'm gonna skip real quick though. I do want to say, I remember one time when we were trick-or-treating, I mean the kids were trick-or-treating, and we started handing out chick books instead of candy. And so, I was older, so kids didn't. Yes. Oh, a chick book is, what is it called?
Chick track.
A chick track is basically a book that has a booklet, a little small booklet that has a story about, it's almost like an analogy. It's like a person's life, and then how it like just kind of spirals, and then at the end they're always supposed to get saved, and you get saved from your life, saved from your sins, and it's like, welcome to Jesus, give your life to Christ, and then at the very end it asks the reader the question, like, do they want to be saved if they haven't been saved? So that's basically what a trick book is. And they do this all in like almost like comic books. Like, it looks like a comic. But I do remember handing out these chick books and kids being so disappointed, but I was so proud. But this one kid, I will never forget this. Every other kid was just like, oh, and they'd walk away. This one kid grabbed the chick book from me, looked at me, and was like, this ain't candy, and threw it at me. I was like, oh my God. But now that I'm out of religion, I could look and I could see, come on now, it's Halloween. It's very disappointing to receive a book. I don't care nothing about your religion or whatever is going on. Don't give me a chick book when I'm expecting candy. I did want to point that out. So I do want to transition from fear to confusion. When I was about 14, 15, like now in like my early stages of being a teenager, I did start being a little confused. This one I remember very well is when people would call Jesus Emmanuel, and I remember asking my dad about this, and Dad, you gave a very gibberish reasoning. I'm talking, it made no sense. I just kind of like went with it. I was like, okay, whatever. But of course I had questions with the just all the stories that they tell, like even Moses, and I just thought it was so dark, with all the plagues, because the people chose not to believe. So I was just a little confused, because I'm like, so we're supposed to be like loving and caring, but then there's God who is plaguing people and killing people, and then they killed like what, the first sons or second, all the firstborns. Even Lot's wife being turned into a pillar of salt. I just thought that was so cruel. And even everyone knows Noah's Ark, when everyone drowned, and then just trying to envision that. I'm like hearing people most likely banging on the ark, and I'm like, so all of this was to try to, what's the word I'm looking for, to try to, yeah, like restart, just for us to basically end up in the same position like now in civilization. Yeah, so it made no sense to me for that to be the case back then, and then it to be justified because it was God. And then us not being able to be, well, one of the commandments, not to be jealous, but one of the prominent things in the Bible speaks of our God being a jealous God. So I just felt it was very hypocritical and confusing. I was just really confused. I would ask the questions. Sometimes, I mean, the answers would sound nice, but I would just kind of be like, you know what, let me not ask any questions because this is God. And I don't want to be on his hit list. So, I mean, for real, that's really how I felt. So, but yeah. Something else that I used to do was, just to kind of, to try to like guide you through my eyes. So when I was younger, religion was like all I knew. It was comforting. But then as I got a little older, it started to become confusing, and I got fearful. But then the fear really did start taking over the older that I got. So I asked my dad one time about, I was like, I don't understand. If you are saved and you're born again, like, shouldn't you be exempt from damnation? But then the Bible says that we should repent. So I used to be so confused. So I'm like, am I good or not? So I got an explanation that just didn't sit right with me. So with that being said, I used to be so anal about it. Every single night, like my prayer, I always repented every single night. And I would be so scared because I'm like, I hope that prayer was enough to keep me in good graces, to keep me safe. And I feared death so much because I was just so uncertain, like, where I lied. Oh, I will say also, when I was in religion, I was very, very judgmental. And what I mean by that is, if anybody, including like anybody who was not Christian, I guess you consider us, what were we, like Baptist Christian or like okay, so I even felt like Catholics weren't safe, and Muslims, and just every religion. I just felt as if I just felt as if Christians, non-denomination more specifically, were the best of the best. Like, we were like top tier, we were superior. So with that being said, if I didn't like somebody and I knew that they were atheists, I was like, I know where you're going. So I definitely did walk around being so judgmental, thinking that I was high and mighty. So now I want to talk about like dating. One thing that stuck out to me a lot with the Bible and religion was waiting abstinence. Yes, was abstinence, and not being intimate with anyone until marriage. So I used to hold that, like I felt like it was like a badge of honor to not cross that line with anyone. So when I went to college and things transpired, I just felt like so much guilt and so much sadness, and I was repenting, and it just felt like I just felt so devastated. Like it was like the worst feeling ever, and I was just like, I should not be doing this, and I've never been so scared. Like I just felt so unsafe during that time. Like I just knew, I was like, if I continue to do this, I'm never going to go to heaven. That's how I felt. And the irony is, the guy who I crossed that line with was actually an atheist. But before we even went there, I remember, because I just assumed everyone was Christian until we had a conversation one day, like months, and he told me that he was atheist. And I just remember being like, I already had feelings for him, but I was just like, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. So we used to have so many arguments about religion, like in Christianity, and he wanted no parts of that. So I remember one day I just had to make the decision. I was like, I have to break up with you. I can't be with you. And we got into the biggest argument ever. I never forget. It was like, I lived in apartments on campus. So I remember us being in the hallway, just arguing and screaming, and he did not want the relationship to end. And I was like, I have to. So, and it was some break that we were going on. So I remember going home and being so sad about it. And then I remember calling him, and I was just like, okay, we can be together. I'm like, but we have to raise our kids Christian. And he's just like, we'll raise our kids, whatever. Like, and I was like, well, will you at least go to church with me? Mind you, I hated church. I was like, will you at least go to church with me and all this stuff? And he was like, yeah, I'll go. We made a compromise. Weren't married, mind you, but we were talking about the future. I was 19 during this time. So I remember being like, him being like, oh, I'll go to the first Sunday of each month. Like, that's it. Like, I'm not going every, and I was like, okay, that's enough. But I remember the whole time I was dating him, I was so scared and frightened, and I was like, God is just not going to approve this relationship. He's so disappointed in me. And again, I felt unsafe, meaning like, from the graces of God. And I was like, I'm just not going to make it to heaven. And I would try to like push it to the back of my head. Fast forward, that relationship ended up ending. But I do remember that while I was in college, I remember I took so much pride in having debates with people that were atheists or any other denomination. And one of the things I used to always say to try to prove that God was real was, I would talk about the Bible, of course, and then I would always be like, I never did the research or anything, but I heard something about Noah's Ark, them finding a piece of it, and so it was true. And same with the Red Sea. I never read into this, mind you. This is just what I'm hearing, but I use this as argument points. Why am I losing my words today? But I use this as part of arguments to try to win them. Even with the Red Sea parting, I used to say that I'm like, they say that it dips down there during that part, like where the Red Sea is, like today, there's a dip from where he parted the sea. Like, those are like my only arguments. And I would literally condemn anybody who would talk about any other book outside of the Bible. And yeah, that was that. What else did I want to talk about?
You said baptism.
Oh yeah, I remember. Okay, we didn't get baptized until we were teenagers, like late teenagers. Um, and I was a little confused. I was so confused. This was like just a confusing time because I'm like, I thought if you get saved and born again, you're good. But I'm like, okay, even if I'm repenting, I thought I was good. So what's the point of this baptism again? So when we got baptized, it was cool. I mean, it was something to do, but I got so mad when we had to get baptized again because the pastor felt.
Talk about the first one.
Oh, okay. So wait, talk about what?
The first baptism.
Oh, the first baptism. So our dad had us. It's five of us. So we were just all in the bathroom, and he would baptize us. He baptized all of us in the tub, which is so funny. But I felt proud during that time. I'm like, okay, now I'm like triple good because I'm saved. I'm I'm saved. I will repent all the time, and I'm baptized. I'm like, I'm good. You ain't telling me no different. I'm good from everything. But then we were going to this church, and someone brought up that we were baptized at home in the bathtub, and the pastor felt as if that wasn't good enough, and that upset me because I'm like, what you talking about? I thought that we don't do this type of thing. I thought this was okay. What you trying to say? Like yours is better than our way of baptism? Mind you, again, I was so judgmental, but I was hypocritical, as a lot of Christians are. But so then we got baptized the second time at his church, the pastor's church, and the water was ice cold. And that was just one of the most uncomfortable experiences ever. And I just remember being so upset because I'm like, we already did this. Like, yeah. So and now I guess I can transition and talk about leaving religion. So, so when I was in college, I was having conversation or having debates with other people that were not religious. So they would make some great points that just kind of intrigued me, and I'm like, okay. So I would start questioning things, but it wasn't enough for me to leave. But I will say I did stop going to church. I did stop repenting. I did stop saying my grace as much, like praying over my food. So I was kind of like getting further and further away from God. But then I remember my dad leaving religion. And I told you I was judgmental. So I remember I was on the phone with my sister, my twin sister, and we were talking about it. Like, we were like, he just talking, man. He crazy. Like, can't believe he playing with his life like that. Like, he really want to go to hell. Like, that's crazy. Like, but then I remember hearing a lot of things that he was saying, and I was like, oh, this kind of goes with what I've already felt in my heart and what I've already heard and experienced on campus. And then I was like, my life really wasn't any different when I stopped repenting and when I stopped saying my grace and when I stopped doing prayers. Like, my life was the same. I don't remember exactly when I left religion, but I do remember the day I decided to leave religion. I remember sitting down. I was still on campus. I remember sitting down. I was about 19 again, and I think during this time, I was actually still with the guy that was atheist, and I had some atheist friends too. But I remember sitting I was in my room on campus, and I remember sitting down on the floor, like, and my bed was right here. And I remember taking a deep breath, and I was just like, ooh, I'm glad that's over with. And I was like, I don't have to go to church anymore. I don't have to pray anymore. I don't have to do any of this anymore. And I can feel good, like I can leave this guilt behind, and just be free. Like, I felt so free, so relieved, like the fear was completely there. I mean, was completely gone. But the moment I decided, I will say, it was so interesting that I no longer feared death or obsessed about death. I personally believe that, I'm not sure, maybe it's like two things that I could, that's the great thing about when I left religion. I felt as if I believed something, it wasn't that deep. Like, it doesn't mean that, it wasn't like concrete, like if you don't do this, then you are damned. And that to me was like very relieving. But back to, I did want to say about death. I'm like, either lights is out and that's it, or we just get reincarnated, because, energy doesn't get, destroyed. But I feel like either or doesn't matter. I could just be like, it's whatever, one of them happened or something happens, I don't know, but I no longer believe in this hell idea. Oh, being a child of a Christian rapper. So if you don't know, my dad was a Christian rapper. I actually loved it personally, because I liked his songs. Still do. I still listen to, even though I'm no longer religious, I still listen to those songs to this day because I think they're fire. But I remember being proud, and I remember loving it. I remember going to church and witnessing him perform. I mentioned that I didn't like church like that, but when he performed, I was so excited. There were even times, I think maybe 2 times, that I performed with him.
What I'm about to say is true, but everybody will not quite. The world is like a punch bowl. I take the word and I spike to get.
And I remember there was this time that I went to Tybee Island on vacation. This was when I was probably 8 years old. I was like 7. I was 10 years old. And went to Tybee Island, and it was just so interesting because one of the kids there actually knew my dad's songs. He knew him as a rapper, and I thought that was insane because he started off in Virginia, and we were now in, where's Tybee Island? We were now out of state, so and someone knew who he was. I do remember this one. I do want to share this one memory when you were a Christian rapper. He was performing. I don't know where this was, but it feels as if it was like a festival. You remember that, Dad? It was like a festival. Yeah, and there was this kid up front, like rapping his songs, like word from word. And I was so jealous and so like, I'm like, who does he think he is? Thinking he know my dad's songs more than me. Like, it was just because that one particular song, I didn't know every word, so I felt jealous that he did. But it was still cool to witness, nevertheless. It was still cool to witness that somebody knew his songs. And and the CDs made it seem like it was like super official. And you were even on the radio one time. Well, multiple times. But I thought that was so dope. I do remember when I was in 3rd grade, and I remember when people found out that my dad was a Christian rapper, I was like, yeah, you're a Christian rapper, and we got CDs. And this was the day before the last day of school. So I remember the children were like, it was like 2 of my friends, and they were like, It was like 3 of my friends. They were like, can you bring us a CD tomorrow? Like, can you bring us a CD so we can have it? And I was like, yeah, I got you. It was just 3 of my friends at the time. I was like, okay, got you. So I bring 3 CDs. So when the class sees me hand 3 of my friends CDs, everybody was like, I want one. And I was just like, dang, I only brought 3. But I do remember that memory, and now that I think about it, Dad, I literally was just giving your stuff out. No profit on it, but oh yeah. So when I was in the church, when we were religious, I had a really good friend of mine who we used to sing at the church together.
Oh, y'all friends.
Well, yeah, he was all of our friend, but I was the closest to him. So dang, Dad. So okay, so we used to sing all the time at church. So every Sunday we would do a duet. And then of course the pastor sometimes would join in and do his thing. But yeah, we used to hang out all the time. I used to go to his house all the time for I guess choir practice. I guess you can call it choir. And we would sing and practice. And then we developed a friendship outside of that. So we used to hang out outside of church, and we would text and talk. Like when I was in college, I would come back and see him. And then his family was based in Virginia as well. So when I was in Virginia, when he was there, we would link up. We were just like really close. Like I went to school in Augusta. And so every time I come back to like Atlanta area, I would hit him up and like, hey, where you at? So he was always like one of the first people that I would see when I came back into town. So he actually ended up passing away. And it was really shocking because it was like the first time I experienced like someone who passed away that was like near and dear to my heart. But it was interesting because when he did pass away, I was no longer in religion. So I didn't have any, because I know if I had been in religion, I know that I would feel like, was he right with God? Was he right with Jesus? Like, and I know that I would probably drive myself insane because I was like that anal when it came to religion. Again, like my biggest priority was just being safe from hell. Like that was what kept me in religion. That's what kept me going. But when I found out that he passed away, it was more of a, you know what, it is what it is. He no longer has to suffer. But I wasn't aware he was suffering until he passed away. But it was relief. And I feel like, honestly, I actually took that kind of hard because like the first 3 months, I really didn't address it or acknowledge it. It was just like, I was like almost like I was in denial. And then finally, I did end up accepting it, and I was actually hugging one of my friends, and I just like boo-hoo cried and like just let it out. But and I would have dreams about him, which was so crazy. They were like so real. Had dreams about him, and I would talk to him through the dreams, and even when I was conscious. But I will say I'm very grateful that I experienced that outside of religion, because I know that I would not have been able to have like relief in that moment. But yeah. The truth or a lie? No. Wait, when you were pregnant, were we in religion?
Yeah.
I
I was.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, we were still in religion. Yep.
Yeah, even being. Oh, I do want to talk about this though. When I was, the interesting part though is when I was in religion, I feel like I was a hardcore Christian, like when I was like actually like in it. But something in me, I hope this is, well, this might be controversial, I don't know. But I was hardcore Christian, and I did feel like everything in the Bible, even though I had questions and concerns. At the end of the day, I felt like God, Jesus trumped everything. But when it came to, I'm just gonna say pro-choice. I will say that I was pro-choice. Like, even being in religion, I just was like, there's a lot of awful situations, but I just could not, I don't know, something in my soul and my spirit, I just was like, I'm pro-choice. I can't, I don't know, but I'm pro-choice. I did feel like people had a right to decide, women had a right to decide what to do with their bodies.
We do have an argument about that.
Huh?
I said we do have an argument about that.
Yes, and I remember having arguments with some of my siblings who felt the opposite, and it was like a conflict with us. And of course, God and Jesus got brought up to be like, no, but God and Jesus wouldn't want that. And we would even talk about something that's like I guess I shouldn't even brought this up because it's on YouTube, but I can't. I don't say somebody being taken advantage of. Right. But I just feel like my moral compass, I still was like, nah, so nobody should be able, nobody should be trapped into that if somebody was taken advantage of. But that's something that did stay with me, or stuff like, it didn't matter what I believed in, I did believe in pro-choice. You know what's crazy? Okay, so I want to tell a story when I saw an angel. I was about 16, and I remember waking up and looking at it was my twin sister's side of the room. So 3 girls, I have two sisters, and our rooms was like in sections. I mean, our room was in sections. So my sister Chelsea had her side, my sister Kerrigan had her side, and I had my own side. But I remember waking up and I looked up and I saw what I thought was an angel, like this huge image. I told my dad about it, and it was so terrifying. I just remember being petrified, like could not move, and I put the covers over my head, and I'm just was like shaking, shivering, and I was just so frightened. And then I just fell asleep, and then I woke up and I told my dad about it, and he just asked me what's my thoughts about that now. Honestly, I still do not know, unless I really don't know that. It's just an image. I don't know. Like, I thought about that a couple months ago, and I was like, what was that then? I don't know what it was though. But yeah. Oh, I want to say where I am now. How do I feel now? I still am a little judgmental. That's just human nature. But I wouldn't say I'm nearly as judgmental as I used to be back then. Meaning, I don't judge people for their religion. If that's what they want to do, cool. My only issue is people, so funny, it's so hypocritical, people trying to force their religion onto others. And I say hypocritical because I used to do that. But that's something now I no longer support, no longer do. You do what you do. Whatever you want to believe, that is on you. That is your life. I do not care. Don't bring that over here. And I just believe, my dad said something. He saw somebody's bumper sticker say something like, their religion is love. Like, and that's what I feel. I truly just feel like if we all love each other, I know it sounds cliche, but I'm like, just love each other and respect each other. That's all that matters. I I don't really think too much about like a higher power. I'm like, if it's there, it's there. If it's not, it's not. I'm just kind of indifferent about it. I do, but I will say this though. I do just talk to Mother Earth and like talk to nature. That's just my thing. I just love stuff like that. But and I do speak to the ancestors. It's nothing deep though. I just be like, I'll just speak to them. But as far as like prayer and all that, I don't do. If someone wants to pray, I don't care. Just don't ask me to pray. But yeah, I do believe in affirmations, meditation, things like that. But I just let everybody do their own thing. I do my own thing, and it's just that I just.
What about your stones?
Oh, my stones. I used to. I don't really do that no more. But I used to have these. Stones. Well, I do still have them. I just don't practice with them anymore. But I used to have these stones, and I used to do like a lot intense research on like what each stone, what energy they held, or what energy they work with, and stuff like that. So, I am into like energies and vibrations, meaning I do believe that every individual is on a certain vibration or a certain energy. They carry certain energy. I really am big into that because I that's based off science. Everything has a vibration or it has some type of life source. But as far as a higher power, I'm not sure. I will say, even when I left religion, I feel like my life got better because I had to start taking accountability and responsibility for everything that transpired, that happened to me personally. Meaning like if it's not someone else involved, like I know if I can't get rid of this weight because I ain't working out, stuff like that. Before I would be like, God got a plan for me. This is how I'm meant to be. But now I'm like, okay, girl, if you want to be smaller, work out. If you want to be bigger, eat more, So I take more responsibility when it comes to my life. But my sister and I, we did joke about it one time. We were just like, dang, sometimes taking out accountability and responsibility hurt a little bit because it was a little easier when we could say that damn devil moving again. But now when I know it's me, I'm like, dang. Okay, so when my dad it's coming back. When my dad when he had his first open heart surgery, I remember being downstairs. Dad, you probably don't know this, but during that time I was actually mad at him for what, I'm not sure, but I do remember being mad at him, right? So I was downstairs and he played too much. He played way too much. So when you came downstairs, he was like hurting. He was like holding his chest, and he was talking about his chest, and he was like, call 911. I'm like, here he go playing all day. But then I realized that I quickly realized that he was serious. And so we called 911 and they came. But I do remember telling my little sister and my little brother, I was so mad at him that I told my sister, I was like, you need to start praying. You need to start praying, make sure he's good. You need to start praying. But I do feel like, even though I didn't want to do it for him, I felt like I got some cool points from God, because I was like, I was mad, but I got somebody else to pray for him. And then when he made it through, even hearing the story of the nurse jumping on his chest and like beating him, and even everything that the doctors did to revive him, I still remember at that time just giving all the praise to God and Jesus, and being like, this was a miracle, and giving it all to them, and praying all the time during that time. And again, I told you the fear that if he did cross over, I'm like, is he right with God? Is he right with Jesus? And I do want to mention real quick, I'm glad we talking about this. I used to always think, and really, I used to get upset about this, the fact that I'm just transitioning real quick, but kind of stay on top a little bit. If someone is like on their deathbed, right? Like somebody who's like a murderer, or a predator, or anything just terrible, in their last breaths, if they give their life to Jesus, then they can go to heaven. I remember being so upset about that, because I'm like, what if I just live the life that I want to live, and then in my last moments I just say, Lord, forgive me, and I give my life to him, and then I'm good. But I did used to have questions about that. Like, I'm like, how is that? Like, what we doing? But now back to my dad. I do remember just being, I did end up getting over the anger. Don't know what I was mad at him about. But I do remember being really scared, because again, I just didn't know. And staying really prayed up during that time to make sure he made it through. And then it was like, it was a huge testimony of his that he survived, and we did give it to God and Jesus. And that now I'm like, we were at a really good hospital, and the doctors did their job. They did what they were supposed to do. And, you know, he made it through. But yeah, oh, and then I believe we were we still in religion when you had the second surgery?
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. Because I'm like, I remember being confused, because I'm like, why is he having to do another surgery if we live our lives according to the Bible, according to God, according to Jesus? Like, why is he back in this predicament? And even worldly things, I used to just be like, why did that happen to people? Like, why are innocent kids being in terrible situations? Why are good people dying? Why are bad people having like this luxurious like and flourishing in life? Like, I just never understood that. So the question my sister asked, what advice do I have for people that are struggling, like on the fence with religion, like what advice would I give to them? And I would just say, I don't know, so I don't want to knock no. Listen, I just want to say, trust yourself, trust your heart, and just move accordingly. To me, it just doesn't, logically and emotionally, it just doesn't make sense to continue to do something if it is geared off fear. Like, I don't think any entity would want you to stay or manipulate you out of fear like that. To me, it just doesn't make any sense. Even if you do believe in everything that your religion claims, it doesn't make sense to. It just doesn't make sense to go off of fear. It just doesn't make sense. So I just say, trust yourself. Trust yourself, and you good. Just that's all I got. I never. Good job.
All right, she tell her story.
I did want to say it. Okay, now I know. Okay.
The same thing happened to me.
Really? Yes. The more.
Remember the jump now.
What I was going to say, do your research. That's what I was going to say. Do your research. There's plenty of people that will support you, that will help you, that will guide you. like you don't have to be a part of. Like just because you were born in it or because your friends are like there's so many people out there that'll help you and don't even judge you for leaving. But just trust yourself, trust your instincts, do the research, and you'll be good.
And cold as your hands, man, you would have put out the fire of the hell.
I can't.
All right, so she gave her testimony. She was nervous doing it,
I was.
but you got loose doing it, you know, and this will help someone else out there when y'all see it. And I'm telling y'all, if the only thing stopping you from leaving religion is the fear of hell, you're already out.
Facts.
You're out.
Yeah.
Just go ahead and step over that hurdle and you're out. Hell is the same mythology as Hades and Tartarus. It's no difference. They just made it Hebrew. If hell is your last step over that. YOLO, you're out. Enjoy your life. Don't be in bondage any longer than you have to be. So I thank my twin daughters for giving their testimonies, and I hope everybody out there enjoyed it. I will see all of y'all on the next video. Y'all take care out there. Peace.